Daniel Hayes was a quiet man who lived a simple life in a small western town. He was a skilled horse trainer, known for his calm nature and gentle way with animals. People trusted him because he never raised his voice, never argued, and never broke a promise. Even when someone owed him money, he never fought or made trouble. He believed that patience always brought better results than anger. One warm morning, Daniel was brushing his favorite horse when a young boy from the town ran toward him. The boy was breathing fast, holding a small paper note in his hand. Daniel thanked him politely and unfolded the note. It was a message from a traveler who claimed to have seen a man named Cole. Cole was someone who had borrowed money from Daniel months ago. He had promised to return the money within a few weeks, but instead, he disappeared without any explanation. Daniel never chased him and never spoke badly about him. He simply waited, hoping that one day Cole would remember his promise. But now, the message said that Cole was seen near the Apache lands, a place Daniel rarely visited. The Apache territory was far away, surrounded by hills, dry valleys, and mountains that rose like giant shadows in the distance. Daniel knew that the journey would be long and tiring, but he also understood that this might be the right time to find Cole and settle the old matter. He finished brushing his horse and thought quietly for a moment. He wasn't angry at Cole. He simply wanted closure. Money was not the biggest issue. It was the broken promise that bothered him. Daniel believed people should keep their word, even if the amount was small. After thinking a little more, he decided he would make the trip. It felt like the right thing to do. He packed only what he needed: a water bottle, dry food, a blanket, and a small bag of tools. Daniel never traveled with unnecessary items. He tied everything carefully onto his saddle and made sure his horse was comfortable. Before leaving town, he spoke to an older couple who ran a small store on the corner. They had known Daniel since he was young. When they heard he was traveling near Apache lands, they looked concerned, not because the Apache people were dangerous, but because the land was vast and easy to get lost in. Daniel assured them he would be careful. He respected the Apache people deeply. He admired how they protected nature, how they honored their traditions, and how they raised their children with discipline and kindness. He had always believed that respect brought respect in return. After saying goodbye, he mounted his horse and began his journey. The sun was rising slowly, painting the sky with soft colors of gold and orange. Daniel relaxed his shoulders and let the horse walk at a comfortable pace. The sound of hoofbeats became his steady companion, echoing through the wide open land. As he traveled, the town behind him grew smaller until it disappeared completely. Ahead of him stretched miles of dry grass, scattered rocks, and old trees shaped by the wind. Daniel felt calm. He loved long rides like this. They gave him time to think, time to breathe, and time to appreciate the quiet beauty around him. By midday, the heat grew stronger. Daniel stopped by a small stream to let his horse drink water. While sitting under a tree, he noticed signs that he was nearing Apache land. He saw small woven markers tied to branches. They were made of thin sticks arranged in symbolic patterns. These markers were not warnings but reminders that the land belonged to the Apache people. Daniel touched one gently and felt grateful to be a visitor here. As he continued riding, he saw more signs of Apache presence: carefully placed stones, footprints near riverbeds, and the faint smell of old campfires. Daniel remained respectful and careful. He spoke softly to his horse, as if encouraging both himself and the animal to move peacefully through the unfamiliar territory. The land grew quiet. Even the wind seemed to soften as he entered deeper into the Apache region. He did not know exactly where Cole might be, but he hoped to find someone who could guide him. Daniel had no intention of disturbing anyone or crossing boundaries without permission. He planned to approach respectfully, ask for help, and leave just as peacefully as he came. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the land. Daniel reached a wide open area surrounded by gentle hills. The sky above him turned a soft shade of pink. His horse slowed down, sensing that they were entering a place where people lived. Daniel looked around but did not see anyone yet. Still, he felt the presence of watchful eyes. The Apache people were known for their sharp instincts and ability to see travelers long before travelers saw them. Daniel cleared his throat softly, straightened himself on the saddle, and waited. He was not nervous, only alert. He knew how important it was to show respect when entering someone else's home. He kept his hands relaxed, his movements slow, and his expression calm. Minutes passed quietly. The air felt still, almost like the land was observing him. Daniel breathed deeply. He trusted the peaceful intention in his heart. Finally, in the distance, he noticed a slight movement near the trees. Someone was approaching. The figure was graceful, steady, and confident. Daniel couldn't see clearly yet, but he sensed the person was not coming with fear or suspicion. This was the moment his life began to change, though he had no way of knowing it. He had come to find a man who owed him money. He had come expecting a practical conversation about debt and responsibility. Instead, he was about to meet someone who would lead him into a completely different chapter of life, one filled with unexpected companionship, deep understanding, and choices he never imagined making. But for now, as the sun slowly dipped behind the hills, Daniel waited quietly, unaware of the extraordinary bond that would begin with this simple meeting in the gentle evening light. Daniel sat calmly on his horse as the figure approached. The soft evening light made everything look gentle, from the hills behind him to the quiet ground beneath his horse's hooves. The person walking toward him moved with a steady confidence, as if they belonged to the land completely. When the figure came closer, Daniel realized it was a woman, an Apache woman with long, dark hair braided neatly down her back and eyes that were calm, clear, and observant. She stopped a few steps away from him, not out of fear, but out of respectful space. She studied Daniel for a moment, as if trying to understand the person standing before her. Daniel removed his hat politely and nodded. She spoke first, her voice soft but firm. She asked him why he was there, but her tone carried curiosity, not suspicion. Daniel explained honestly that he was looking for a man named Cole who owed him money. He made sure to add that he meant no harm, no disturbance, and no disrespect. He only wished to ask a few questions and then leave peacefully. The woman listened carefully. Her face remained calm, but Daniel could tell she was evaluating his sincerity. She introduced herself as Nayeli. Her name suited her. It sounded warm, like sunlight touching water. Daniel repeated her name politely, and she gave a small nod, appreciating the respect in his voice. Nayeli asked Daniel a few simple questions about Cole, what he looked like, when Daniel had last seen him, and how far the man might have traveled. Daniel answered everything with honesty. While they spoke, Nayeli did not step back or show any hesitation. She appeared fearless yet gentle. Her presence alone carried a kind of quiet strength. After listening to everything Daniel said, Nayeli explained that outsiders did not usually pass through this area unnoticed. She had not seen Cole herself, but she believed she could help Daniel track the direction he might have gone. She also made it clear that Daniel should not travel deeper into the land without guidance, not because it was dangerous, but because the land held sacred paths and special places that visitors should not cross without permission. Daniel agreed immediately. He respected her guidance and felt grateful for her willingness to help. Nayeli then signaled with her hand for him to follow her. She moved gracefully, her steps steady and sure, and Daniel rode slowly behind her, guiding his horse carefully so he would not disturb anything around them. As they walked, the sky shifted from pink to a soft purple shade. The breeze carried the faint smell of earth and distant flowers. Daniel felt a sense of peace, even though he was far from home and searching for someone who had troubled him. Something about Nayeli's quiet confidence made him feel safe. During their walk, Nayeli began asking Daniel gentle, friendly questions, not about his debt or his plans, but about his life, his work, and the town he came from. Daniel told her about training horses, about the small community he lived in, and how he enjoyed simple things like morning rides, helping neighbors, and watching sunsets from the hill near his home. Nayeli listened with genuine interest. She told him that she loved caring for horses, too. Her tribe raised strong, loyal horses, and she often helped train them for long journeys. She said that horses understood kindness more deeply than people realized. Daniel smiled at that, appreciating how naturally her words matched his own beliefs. Nayeli also shared small bits about her community, how they valued family, traditions, and harmony with nature. She did not speak loudly or boastfully. She spoke quietly, with a warm honesty that made Daniel feel as if he had known her for longer than just a few minutes. As they continued their search for any sign of coal, Nayeli stopped at certain places, studying the ground with practiced eyes. She pointed out faint footprints Daniel would have never noticed on his own, and she explained how to read small clues in the land, the broken twig that hinted at a traveler passing, the shift in the dust beside rocks, or the changed direction of grass pressed under a person's foot. Daniel watched with admiration. He had always been observant with animals, but Nayeli's understanding of the land was something different. It felt almost magical, yet completely real. At one point, they stopped near a flat clearing where several travelers sometimes passed through. Nayeli knelt down, running her fingers gently over the ground. Daniel dismounted and joined her. She pointed to a footprint that was slightly deeper on one side, showing weight shifting unevenly. She explained that it was made by someone carrying something heavy, or someone tired. Daniel could feel the connection forming between them even in the silence. There was no rush, no pressure, no awkwardness. Their communication felt natural, like two people who respected each other without needing to say it aloud. As they continued their search, Daniel found himself enjoying their conversation, even forgetting the purpose of his visit for a few moments. He told Nayeli about the older couple who ran the store in his town and how they often scolded him for taking too many long rides alone. Nayeli laughed softly, telling him that he reminded her of one of her cousins who always wandered too far just for the sake of fresh air. Their laughter echoed gently across the open land. Daniel realized he hadn't laughed that comfortably in a long time. The sky slowly darkened as stars began to peek out. Nayeli told Daniel that they should not continue the search in darkness because footprints and small signs would be harder to read. She suggested they return to her settlement for the evening. Daniel hesitated at first, not wanting to intrude or make anyone uncomfortable, but Nayeli assured him that her people welcomed respectful guests. Daniel agreed, trusting her judgment. As they walked back, the air grew cooler. The stars reflected in Nayeli's eyes as she spoke softly about the constellations her elders taught her about. Daniel listened, fascinated by the stories of how they navigated by the stars and how each constellation had a meaning or lesson attached to it. By the time they reached the settlement, Daniel felt as if he had stepped into a different world, a peaceful, thoughtful world where every action held meaning. The settlement was calm and beautiful, with small fires burning gently, children playing quietly, and elders speaking in soft tones. People noticed Daniel, but instead of staring or showing discomfort, they looked toward Nayeli. When she nodded slightly, the people seemed reassured. Trust in Nayeli's judgment was clearly strong within the community. Some of the tribe's members offered Daniel a place to rest for the evening, and food was quietly brought to him. Warm bread, roasted vegetables, and fresh water. Daniel thanked them sincerely, touched by their hospitality. Nayeli sat near him and asked if he was comfortable. Daniel told her he was more comfortable than he had expected to be. She smiled, her eyes reflecting a soft warmth that made Daniel feel strangely at ease. Throughout the evening, Daniel watched how Nayeli moved among her people. She carried herself with a gentle authority, never loud, never demanding, but respected by everyone around her. Children greeted her happily, elders spoke to her kindly, other young women and men admired her confidence. It was clear that Nayeli had a special place in her tribe. Daniel realized that he admired her too, deeply and quietly. He reminded himself that he had only come to find coal and resolve an old debt. But as he sat there among strangers who felt unexpectedly welcoming, beside a woman who had already shown him kindness and wisdom, he felt the first hint of a change happening in his heart. A connection had begun, soft, natural, and unplanned. Daniel did not know what tomorrow would bring. He only knew that meeting Nayeli was not an ordinary moment. It was the beginning of something he could not fully understand yet, something that carried the warmth of possibility. The morning sun rose slowly over the Apache settlement, spreading a warm, golden glow across the land. Birds fluttered between branches, and a light breeze carried the soft scent of wild grass. Daniel woke up feeling surprisingly refreshed. He had slept on a simple blanket inside a small shelter offered by the tribe, yet he felt more rested than he had in weeks. It was as if the calm atmosphere around him had settled his mind. He stepped outside and saw the settlement alive with gentle activity. Women prepared morning meals, children played quietly, and elders sat in small groups talking softly. Everything moved with a peaceful rhythm. Daniel admired how naturally everyone seemed to understand their role. There was no rushing or shouting, just calm cooperation. Nayeli approached him with a friendly smile. She carried a small basket with morning bread and fruit. Daniel thanked her, and she asked if he had slept well. He nodded, returning her smile. Being around her felt easy and comfortable, like speaking with someone he had known for much longer than a single day. After breakfast, Nayeli reminded Daniel that they still had to continue the search for coal. Daniel agreed, though he found himself wishing the purpose of his visit had been different. Still, he stayed focused. He did not want to disappoint Nayeli or give the impression that he had forgotten his reason for being there. They set out together once again. Daniel rode his horse while Nayeli walked beside him for a while. Eventually, she mounted her own horse, an elegant brown mare with a strong posture and bright, alert eyes. Daniel admired how gracefully Nayeli handled her horse. She guided the animal with gentle movements, showing deep understanding and trust. As they traveled away from the settlement, Nayeli explained that the land they were heading toward was often used by travelers. She believed that if coal had passed through, there would still be traces of his movement. Her confidence made Daniel feel hopeful. Even if he had no guarantee of finding coal, he trusted Nayeli's judgment. The land around them seemed even more beautiful during the morning. Sunlight touched the rocks, trees, and distant hills, making everything appear alive. Daniel breathed deeply, enjoying the crisp air. Riding beside Nayeli felt peaceful. Every so often, she glanced at him with a calm expression, as if silently checking if he was comfortable. During the journey, they talked again, slowly, softly, and with growing familiarity. Daniel told her about his childhood, how he had grown up helping his father with farm work and learning to care for horses. Nayeli shared memories of learning from her grandmother, who taught her about herbs, traditions, and the importance of listening to the land. Every story from her carried wisdom and warmth. Their conversation flowed naturally, like a quiet stream. Daniel noticed how Nayeli spoke with respect about everyone, her family, her tribe, even travelers she had only seen once. She believed every person carried a story worth understanding. Daniel admired that deeply. After some time, Nayeli slowed her horse and pointed to a set of faint footprints near a dry patch of earth. Daniel stopped and leaned forward to get a closer look. Nayeli explained that the footprints were recent, not more than a day old. She examined the stride and the dusty marks left behind. Her expression grew thoughtful. She said the footprints likely belonged to a man traveling alone. The steps suggested steady but tired movement. Daniel listened carefully. It felt strange knowing that Cole might have passed through this very area only hours before them. They followed the trail slowly as Nayeli continued reading the clues nature had left behind. The tracks led them to a slight rise in the land. From the top, they could see a long stretch of open ground with tall grass waving gently in the breeze. Nayeli guided her horse forward and studied the area with sharp eyes. Daniel admired how deeply connected she was with her surroundings. It was as if the land whispered its secrets to her, and she understood every word. After a while, Nayeli sighed softly and told Daniel something important. The footprints suggested that Cole had changed direction, heading toward a river that flowed far beyond the hills. Daniel felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief that the search had a new direction. Disappointment because it meant Cole had likely moved farther away, making the journey longer. Still, Daniel thanked Nayeli sincerely. He appreciated her effort more than she realized. As they continued following the trail, the day grew warmer. They traveled through open fields, shaded groves, and narrow paths lined with wildflowers. Daniel found himself noticing details he had never paid attention to before. Tiny insects crawling on leaves, the soft rustling of wind, the patterns made by sunlight on the ground. It was as if Nayeli's presence had opened his eyes to the quiet beauty around him. After several hours, Nayeli suggested they stop and rest near a small cluster of trees. They tied their horses to branches and sat on the grass. Nayeli handed Daniel a small piece of dried fruit, and he accepted it gratefully. As they ate, they continued talking, their voices blending with the gentle sounds of nature. Daniel asked her about her tribe's customs. Nayeli explained traditions that celebrated friendship, unity, and respect for the land. She talked about how they honored important events with songs and storytelling. Daniel listened with deep interest. Her words were soothing and meaningful. At one point, Nayeli softly shared that she believed meeting people happened for a reason. Even strangers who crossed paths for a moment often carried lessons for each other. Daniel felt something warm inside him when she said that. He wondered quietly what lesson he was meant to learn through meeting her. After resting, they resumed their search. But then something unexpected happened. They reached an area near the plateau where travelers often stopped, and the clues suddenly disappeared. The footprints faded into the grass, and no new signs appeared. Nayeli circled the area several times, looking for even the faintest mark, but the land offered no answers. Daniel felt a small wave of disappointment, but Nayeli remained calm. She explained gently that sometimes the land hid its clues, and sometimes travelers changed paths suddenly. She assured him they could continue the search later. For now, the day was growing late, and returning before nightfall was wiser. Daniel agreed. As they headed back, he felt strangely thoughtful. The search for Cole no longer felt like the main focus of the journey. Instead, he found himself thinking about the conversations he had shared with Nayeli, the peaceful moments they had experienced, and the quiet connection forming between them. When they returned to the settlement, the evening sky was painted with soft orange and pink colors. People welcomed Nayeli warmly, and Daniel felt the same gentle acceptance he had felt the previous night. The tribe had become familiar in a very short time. During the evening meal, Daniel watched Nayeli interact with her people. She moved easily among them, helping elders, guiding children, and speaking kindly to everyone. The soft firelight made her look even more graceful. Daniel realized he admired her not just for her beauty, but for her calm spirit, her intelligence, and her gentle heart. Later, Nayeli's grandmother approached her and spoke quietly to her. Daniel couldn't hear their words, but he sensed something meaningful passing between them. Nayeli listened with a thoughtful expression, then gave her grandmother a warm, grateful smile. Daniel felt something shift inside him during that moment. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was soft, steady, and impossible to ignore. He was beginning to feel something he had not expected at all, a quiet bond growing deeper with each hour spent near Nayeli. He reminded himself that he had come only for a debt. Yet now, the debt felt like the smallest part of his journey. What felt large, unexpectedly large, was the connection that seemed to be forming naturally between him and Nayeli. The night grew darker, and stars filled the sky once again. Daniel lay on his blanket, staring upward, thinking about the day. Every moment felt meaningful. Every conversation with Nayeli echoed gently in his thoughts. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing clearly. Meeting Nayeli had changed something inside him in a way he couldn't explain yet, and the path ahead, whatever it held, felt different than before. The next morning began with a gentle glow on the horizon. Daniel stepped out of his shelter and stretched his arms, feeling the cool air wrap around him like a soft blanket. The Apache settlement was already awake. Men tended to horses, women prepared food, and children quietly followed their morning routines. Everything moved with a peaceful rhythm, just as it had the day before. Nayeli approached him with the same calm smile that made Daniel's heart feel lighter. She handed him a small bowl of warm food and said she hoped he had slept well. Daniel thanked her and noticed that she looked more thoughtful than usual, as if something important was on her mind. He didn't ask yet, choosing instead to wait for her to speak when she felt ready. They sat together near a small patch of wildflowers. The colors of the petals danced gently in the soft morning light. Daniel ate quietly while Nayeli watched the horizon for a moment. Finally, she looked at him and said that her grandmother had spoken to her the night before about something meaningful. Daniel listened carefully. Nayeli explained that in her tribe, elders often sensed things before younger people did. Her grandmother believed that every meeting between people carried purpose. She had noticed the peaceful way Daniel respected their land, their customs, and their people. She told Nayeli that when someone came into their lives with a calm heart, it was not accidental. It meant something. Daniel felt his breath slow as he listened. He didn't know where the conversation was going yet, but he sensed the importance of her words. Nayeli continued, saying her grandmother believed Daniel's presence was not only connected to his search for coal. She believed Daniel had been guided there by more than just a debt. She felt that something deeper tied the two of them together, something that neither of them had planned, but both of them could feel quietly growing. Daniel didn't know what to say for a moment. He looked at Nayeli, and she met his eyes with a gentle steadiness. Her expression carried no pressure, only honesty. He finally spoke, admitting that he too felt something he didn't fully understand. He told her that the moments they had shared, the conversations, the peaceful silences, they all felt meaningful to him. He added that meeting her had changed the way he looked at his journey. Nayeli smiled softly, and the morning sun touched her face, making her look even more radiant. She told Daniel that whatever the future held, she believed in moving with an open heart. She said that only truth created strong paths, whether those paths led two people together or separated them peacefully. Their conversation felt gentle yet powerful, like a quiet river slowly shaping the land around it. After the soft silence that followed, Nayeli reminded Daniel that they still needed to search for coal, even if the trail had grown faint. Daniel agreed, though a part of him wished the search were already over so he could focus on the connection forming between them. Still, He respected the purpose of his journey. They gathered their supplies and prepared their horses. Before leaving, several tribe members approached Nayeli, offering her guidance, water, and encouragement. Daniel noticed how respected she was. She was not only kind and wise, she was deeply valued by everyone around her. As they began their journey again, the weather was warm but pleasant. They followed a new direction, guided by the last clues Nayeli had found the previous day. She explained that if Cole had followed the river, he might have stopped at certain places where travelers rested. Daniel listened closely, appreciating her knowledge. As they rode, the land changed shape. The fields gave way to gentle slopes, and tall grasses swayed around them like waves. They crossed a narrow stream where birds dipped their wings into the water. At times, Nayeli rode slightly ahead, studying the land with sharp eyes. At other times, she slowed down to ride beside Daniel, talking with him about small things, stories, dreams, and childhood memories. Every moment felt natural. Later in the afternoon, they reached a quiet area near a low hill. The wind carried a faint smell of wood and something like dried herbs. Nayeli paused her horse and looked around thoughtfully. She asked Daniel to wait while she checked something. He watched her walk toward a cluster of rocks, studying the ground with patience and care. After a few minutes, she returned with a calm expression. She told Daniel that she had found signs that Cole had rested there: broken grass, a small mark on the ground where someone had placed a bag, and faint footprints that matched the direction they had been following. Daniel felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief that they were not following an empty trail. Disappointment because every sign meant Cole was still ahead, not found yet. But Nayeli reassured him gently. She said that the clues were growing clearer and that they would likely find the direction he had taken next. She also reminded him that every journey unfolded at its own pace. They continued for a few more hours, following the signs. The sun slowly lowered in the sky, turning the land golden. Daniel found himself admiring the way Nayeli looked in the warm light, the wind brushing gently against her long braid. Her presence calmed him, even when the search grew tiring. When evening approached, Nayeli suggested they rest before it got too dark. They found a quiet spot under a large tree with wide branches. The tree offered shade and comfort. They tied their horses nearby and sat on a patch of soft ground. Daniel handed Nayeli some fruit from his bag, and she accepted it with a grateful smile. The silence between them felt warm, not awkward. Daniel felt like he could sit beside her for hours without saying a word and still feel connected. Eventually, Nayeli spoke softly. She told Daniel that she admired his patience and the way he approached everything with calmness. She said most people who came looking for someone did so with anger or frustration, but Daniel carried no bitterness. His heart, she said, felt peaceful and steady. Daniel was touched by her words. He told her that he admired her too, her wisdom, her strength, and her deep respect for her people and her land. He said he had never met someone with a spirit as balanced and gentle as hers. Their eyes met for a long moment. Something warm passed between them, a silent understanding that neither of them tried to hide. The connection they had been feeling was no longer quiet or vague. It was becoming clear, warm, and real. As night approached, they set up small blankets and rested under the open sky. The stars appeared slowly, one by one, until the whole sky sparkled. Daniel lay on his back, listening to the gentle sounds of night. Nayeli lay a short distance from him, her gaze fixed on the stars too. She began telling him stories about the constellations, how her people saw animals in them, how each star carried a lesson about life or harmony. Daniel listened, completely captivated. Her voice was soft, like a warm breeze. As she spoke, Daniel realized that he didn't just admire Nayeli. He cared for her deeply. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was slow, careful, and honest, like a seed that had quietly grown roots. He wondered if she felt the same. He did not ask. He knew that the right moment would reveal itself naturally. As the night deepened, the two of them rested peacefully under the stars, side by side, not touching, but feeling each other's presence like a steady heartbeat in the quiet land. Daniel didn't know where Cole was anymore, but he knew one thing clearly. The journey had given him something far beyond what he came for, something he had never expected, something that felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with warmth, trust, and possibilities he had never imagined. The morning light touched the distant hills as Daniel slowly opened his eyes. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he felt the soft breeze passing through the open window of the wooden house, heard the quiet sound of the nearby river, and remembered everything. He was in the Apache village, living a life he had never imagined, and beside him, sitting quietly and brushing her hair, was Ayanna, the woman who had changed everything for him. She smiled the moment she noticed he was awake. Her smile still felt new to him, even after all these days. It had a calm beauty, like warm sunlight touching cold ground. "You wake up slowly?" she said in her gentle voice. Daniel laughed softly. "Only because the mornings here feel peaceful. It makes a man want to stay in bed longer." Ayanna moved closer and handed him a cup of warm herbal tea, something she made every morning. Its simple taste and calming smell had become part of his daily joy. Today was important. Ayanna's family had planned a special gathering to welcome Daniel fully into their community. It was not a ceremony of marriage. They already accepted the bond between Ayanna and Daniel. Instead, it was a gathering to honor trust, understanding, and unity. It was a moment that would show the entire community that Ayanna had chosen him with confidence, and that he had chosen her with equal respect. As the sun rose higher, the village became busier. People walked to the open area where the gathering would take place. Children ran around with excitement. Older women prepared food. The men arranged the seating circle. Everything carried a sense of warmth. Daniel felt nervous, something he had not felt in a long time. He had spoken to groups before, handled business matters, and traveled across towns. But standing before Ayanna's people, wanting to show that he truly respected their ways, felt different. He wanted to earn their trust, not simply receive it. Ayanna noticed his quiet tension and slipped her hand into his. "You do not need to worry," she said softly. "They already see your heart." Daniel looked at her, grateful. "I just want to honor your world the way it deserves." "You already do," she replied. When they stepped outside their house, several villagers greeted them with warm smiles. Some offered gifts, simple woven bracelets, small beaded ornaments, or handmade tools. Every gift carried meaning. Every gesture showed teamwork, culture, and acceptance. Ayanna's grandmother approached slowly, walking with the calm confidence of someone who had seen many seasons. She held a folded blanket, handcrafted with beautiful patterns. She placed it in Daniel's hands with a gentle nod. "You stand with us now," she said. "Carry respect, and you will never walk alone." Daniel bowed his head. "Thank you. I won't forget this." As the gathering began, the community formed a wide circle. Daniel and Ayanna sat together in the center. The elders spoke about unity between people from different worlds. They mentioned kindness, understanding, and patience. Every word reminded Daniel how much he had changed since the day he first came here. He came searching for a man who owed money. Instead, he found a woman who chose him with pure trust, a life that taught him new values, and a path that gave him meaning. When it was Daniel's turn to speak, he stood slowly. All eyes turned toward him. He took a deep breath. "I came here as a stranger," he began. "I did not expect to stay. I did not expect to be welcomed. but your kindness changed me. Ayana showed me a way of life that feels honest and peaceful. If you allow me, I want to remain here, not just as her partner, but as someone who respects your traditions, your land, and your hearts." There was silence for a moment, followed by warm murmurs of approval. One of the elders raised his hand and said, "A man is known by the way he treats others. You have treated our people with honesty. That is enough for us." Ayana looked at Daniel with pride. Any remaining nervousness he had faded away. After the speeches, the celebration began. Music filled the air, created by handmade instruments that produced soft, rhythmic sounds. People danced in gentle circles. Children laughed as they played. The scent of freshly cooked food drifted everywhere. Daniel joined the activities slowly at first, but soon he found himself smiling, talking, and participating as if he had always been part of this place. Ayana stayed by his side, introducing him to people he had not met yet, explaining small details of the traditions, and guiding him with quiet gestures. Later in the evening, when the sky turned orange and pink, Ayana took Daniel for a walk near the river. It was the same river where they had spoken many times, shared thoughts, and learned about each other. The water reflected the colors of the sky. The breeze felt cool against their faces. "I never thought life would bring me here," Daniel said quietly. "I feel like everything before this was preparing me for what I found in you." Ayana turned to him. "I chose you because your heart is steady. You listen. You do not try to change who I am. You accept my world. That is rare." He smiled and gently held her hand. "And you gave me a life I didn't know I needed." They walked in silence for a moment, enjoying the calmness. Daniel felt something warm in his chest, a peaceful certainty that he was exactly where he was meant to be. When they returned to the celebration area, the villagers were preparing a final gesture. A long cloth was placed on the ground, decorated with symbols. Daniel and Ayana were invited to stand at the center. Two elders approached and placed matching woven bands around their wrists. It was not a marriage ritual, but a symbol of unity and partnership. The elder woman spoke softly. "These bands remind you that the path of two people becomes strong when walked with respect and harmony." Daniel felt the meaning of the moment deeply. Ayana touched the band on her wrist and smiled. As night settled, the stars came out one by one. The village grew quieter as people slowly returned to their homes. Daniel and Ayana remained seated on a small wooden bench outside their house, watching the sky. "It is beautiful here at night," Daniel said. "Yes," Ayana replied. "The sky tells stories if you listen." Daniel leaned back, feeling completely at peace. "I want to stay here forever," he said softly. Ayana rested her head on his shoulder. "Then stay. This is your home now." He wrapped his arm around her gently. "I will. I'm not going anywhere." The sound of the river flowed steadily in the background. The soft glow of moonlight covered the land. Every part of the night felt calm, as if the world accepted their choice. Daniel thought about the strange twist of fate that brought him here. A simple debt collection trip had changed his entire life. He had come with a purpose related to business, but he left with a purpose related to the heart. Ayana had chosen him freely, and he had chosen her with equal honesty. The next morning, Daniel woke early. Not because of worry or responsibility, but because he wanted to help with daily village tasks. He joined the men in gathering wood, fixing tools, and preparing paths. They guided him with patience, and he learned with interest. Soon, he became part of the rhythm of the community. Ayana watched him from a distance with a soft smile. She knew he was adjusting and finding comfort in this simple way of life. She admired how quickly he accepted the values of her people. Every day after that followed a peaceful routine. Daniel helped with community work, learned to understand Apache customs, and respected every tradition. In return, the village treated him with warmth. People often stopped by his home to ask for help or share stories. Slowly, he became someone they trusted. Ayanna and Daniel spent evenings near the river, talking about their hopes. They planned a future where both their worlds could meet, not by changing each other, but by sharing and learning. Seasons changed. The bond between them grew stronger. Daniel no longer felt like an outsider. He felt rooted, grounded, and fulfilled. Ayanna's family became his family. Her grandmother often invited him to sit with her and listen to her experiences. He learned life lessons that no book or business deal had ever taught him. With time, Daniel realized that the greatest wealth a person could gain was not money, not land, but connection. Real, honest connection. Ayanna had given him that gift. The village had nurtured it, and his own choices had helped him grow. One night, as they watched the stars again, Ayanna whispered, "Life brought you here for a reason." Daniel nodded. "Yes, to find you." She smiled, and the peaceful night wrapped around them like a gentle blanket. From that day on, their life continued with love, trust, and unity. Daniel had entered the Apache world as a stranger, but he remained as a chosen partner, a trusted friend, and a beloved part of the community. And no matter how many years passed, he never forgot that one unexpected journey, meant only to collect a debt, had instead led him to a life full of meaning, harmony, and a partner who chose him with an open heart.